Go ahead, Councillor Westgate.
Okay, well, welcome everybody. We're just waiting on, or Jackie's still going to join us by phone, so I will start the meeting until she gets here. Anybody with a conflict of interest, declare it at the proper time. Minutes of the last meeting, the count November the 16th. We got somebody to accept them. Colin, Wayne, any discussion? All in favor? Business arising from the previous minutes? Oh, here's Jackie now, so.
All right, Council, sorry about that. Having some technical difficulties. Can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So we have done the minutes from the previous meeting.
Yes.
We will go to scheduled meeting and events. Any questions or comments about those meetings?
Just a clarification, the budget meeting starts at 5:30.
5:30 Wednesday, January 20th.
Everybody's got the same?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. We want to make sure all of council's there for that meeting and that everybody's available. So
Okay.
any other questions or comments? Just so council knows, you are welcome to attend the Roma or OGRA virtual conferences. They are not as exciting as the in-person conferences, but there's still some great information available at that if you have time. We will go down to councillors' commitments and items. Does anyone have any commitments they'd like to add? No? Okay, then we will go around the table. I'm going to start with Councillor White. Do you have any councillors' items for council today?
Nothing today. No.
Okay. How about Councillor Morris?
I was asked about the parking area. I guess you'd call it a carpool area at the corner of Nauvoo and Egremont. Is that Warwick's or counties?
I believe that belongs to the county.
Well, it was just,
That's correct.
I guess the snow isn't getting plowed out of there. Could we make a call to the right person to see if they do plow it or not?
We can certainly make that inquiry.
Thank you.
Okay. The garbage does seem to pile up in that area as well, I've noticed.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure it's getting plowed. I got two phone calls actually from people that almost got stuck there with a little bit of snow we had that are using it as carpools. So, and I didn't know if it was, I assumed it was the counties, but I wasn't sure.
They're both county roads, so I assumed it was them as well. So we'll make a call for that.
Thank you. That's
Okay,
all.
anything else? Okay, Councillor Westgate.
I have nothing.
Okay, and Councillor Mitchell.
Just thanks to the fire departments for their parade on this past weekend. Kids really enjoyed it. Seemed to wake up the neighborhood, that's for sure. So it was. I'm just very happy that we were able to do something as a community. So
Yes, it wasn't.
Big thanks to those guys out there. That was great.
Thank you, Councillor Mitchell. That's great. The only thing I have is I'd like to congratulate Kevin Marriott. He was appointed the newest newest warden of Lambton County, and Bev Hand, who is the deputy warden. So congratulations to both of them. And that's all I have for today. So we will move on to staff items. We'll start with a verbal update from Amanda on the official plan process and related timelines.
Thank you, Mayor Runbouts. Just wanted to advise council that as a staff team, Phil, our planner, and myself have been meeting on a few occasions with our consultants on the official plan and the Niagara Planning Group to discuss natural heritage, local issues, and most recently we had a meeting on timelines. And there have been some delays in the process. So the timelines for the project have shifted. And they're just working on preparing an updated spreadsheet, Gantt chart. But I think we're looking at more of a summer 2021 timeline for completion. Initially, we were targeting March, so it is a bit later, and it's due to the public meeting was held a little bit later than initially anticipated. So unfortunately, that's caused a bit of delay, but we are working with them to keep everything on time and on track as possible. And at our next meeting, we are preparing to bring forward the background report, which would include all the kind of background of all the issues that are being brought forward. So it's just the next step in the process. And at that time, I'll have more information on timelines, but I just wanted to make council aware that something was coming to that effect.
Okay, thank you, Amanda. Does anyone have any questions for that update? Seeing none, we will go on to a verbal update from Teresa Kletchen, Parks and Rec Manager, on the fundraising feasibility study.
Thanks, Mayor Rumboats. So staff have had their first planning meeting with Inspire, the contractor that's completing the feasibility study for the township's project. We're in the process of developing materials, so an executive summary, and as well as initiating recruitment of steering committee members. We will be looking at getting a handful of people to help out with this. And we're planning for council interviews to take place in December, with the community interviews to take place in January. So everything will be coming in finalized at the end of January, which lines up with when we tender the project. So things are well on their way.
That's great. Any questions, council? Seeing none, we will skip over the delegations for now and go on to the accounts payable. There is a GL report there. Is there any questions for Trevor on the GL report? Anything you want to highlight, Trevor?
Nothing too exciting. We should be fine given the time of the year and the budget we have left in terms of road conditions, which is going to be our last wild card. Revenues will be down, but we expected that, but looks good.
Okay. Do you need a motion to receive and file that report?
Yes, please.
Moved by Councillor White, seconded by Councillor Morris, all in favor. That is carried. We will go on to non-action correspondence. Is there anything anyone wants to highlight from that? We had quite an extensive list again. All right, we need a motion to receive and file that correspondence. Moved by Councillor Mitchell, seconded by Councillor Westgate, all in favor. That is carried. We will go down to action correspondence. And I'm just going to go through the list. If there's anything council wants to support or highlight, then please let me know. The first one is St. Clair Region Conservation Authority Bill 229 and changes to the Conservation Authorities Act. Jerry, or sorry, Councillor Westgate. You'd like to support that?
No. It's that's
Now that is against the changes that the government is putting through, that resolution.
well, some of the changes the conservation area doesn't want, right?
Well, the Conservation Authority doesn't want, but I think people that I've talked to from the county have said that they're good changes in their opinion.
Okay.
That the Conservation Authorities seem to have, this is just what I've heard, but in talking with some friends from county anyway, they were saying that they've been having some frustrations with getting things approved, even the townships themselves.
Okay, well, I'll withdraw that then. That's
Okay. The second one is the Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs Tile Drain Loan Program. Then we had the Asable Bay Conservation Authority essentially asking for the same thing as the first one. Next one was Peter Julian, MP of West Newminster, Burnaby, asking for support, I believe, for Bill C-213, Canada Pharmacare Act. Councillor White?
I would like to move that, support of that. Pharmacare is a big issue for a lot of people. It's very expensive, especially if you have a orphan disease, which a number of people do, autoimmune or even diabetes. That's an autoimmune disease. They're very expensive, and not all are covered by insurance companies at all. So I think it is important, as other parts of the world do cover the whole area of Medicare and also of pharmacare. So, yeah, I think it's important because we see it in our business, seniors coming in that have to make decisions between food and medicine, and that's not a reasonable decision.
Councillor Morris?
I'll second that.
Is there any discussion on that other than Councillor White's? The only thing I will have a hard time supporting this, and I don't have insurance. I pay all out of pocket for my medication, so I do understand the struggle is real. But like everything else, I think the price tag goes up when it's covered under the government's ticket. So
I think you can better negotiate as a group, though, too.
I don't know. It's the same with a lot of things. And once government takes control.
Mhm.
But we'll call the vote. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. So we will be, as a council, supporting that. The next one is the Region Appeal resolution regarding property tax exemptions for Veterans Club. And then the Township of Warwick resolution regarding tile drainage installation act. All right, if we need a motion to receive and file the remainder of that. Thank you, Councillor Morris, seconded by Councillor Mitchell. All in favor? That is carried. All right, we will go down to 13A, staff reports and the current municipal service levels and COVID-19 impacts. Any questions or comments on that report?
Another
Seeing
well
none,
done one.
Sorry?
Another well done report. I love this report.
Yes, it definitely keeps us all up to date on what changes are happening throughout the year. And as it highlights, we are now in the protect section. Hopefully we can stay there and not be moved to any further down the line. Amanda, is there anything you'd like to highlight from that report?
No, Mayor Rumbouts, there isn't.
Okay. We need a motion to receive and file that. Moved by Councillor Mitchell, seconded by Councillor White. All in favor? That is carried. And we'll go down to B, agreement with SW Middlesex for processing unpaid parking tickets. How does council want to deal with that report? Councillor White or Morris?
I will support it. I'll make the motion to accept it.
Okay, and
Well,
Councillor Westgate, are you seconding that? Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That is carried. Okay, we'll go to implement weather and building closure policy. We did have a situation quite recently where we had some inclement weather, so that kind of brought up this report. And there is a recommendation on that report. Do we have a mover for that? Moved by Councillor Westgate, seconded by Councillor Morris. Any questions or comments? Councillor Morris?
The only thing I'd like to, for the arena, is to give as much notice as possible. There's nothing worse than having an hour drive to the arena where you play, and you're 20 minutes into the drive and then you hear it's canceled. As much notice as possible would be greatly appreciated, I think, by the user groups.
I agree with you, Councillor Morris, and it doesn't seem to be as much of an issue since we're not playing games right now because of COVID. But that is a good comment as well. So all in favor of this motion? That is carried. Next one is the Watford Arena non-prime time ice policy. There's a recommendation attached to that report as well. Do we have a mover for that? Councillor White, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Westgate. Any questions or concerns about that report? All in favor? That is carried. Look at this, staff. You guys are getting better with your reports all the time. No questions, no concerns. All right, and we'll go to E, which is the Parks and Recreation 2020 advertising. Councillor Morris, are you moving that?
No, I'm not. I'd like to ask that this maybe be referred back to the Parks and Rec Committee, since it's not due just yet. Before, it's not Teresa's fault, before she got there, we talked about a package deal that the previous manager was looking into to include the baseball diamonds. And have, you could go to Jerry Westgate's company and say, we can give you advertising on the ball diamond and the arena and this, a package deal. I think we should look into that because we're not going to get much use of this year out of the advertising in the arena, but the ballpark, I'm really hoping, you know, it'll be good. And it'll be good for the 2 new diamonds that I'm wondering about giving Teresa a little bit of time to look into that.
Yeah.
Teresa?
Thank you. So the ball diamonds do have a separate advertising rate that I am aware of. And one of the thoughts on this is that over 2021, we'll be preparing and reviewing an overall sponsorship package that would include the new facility also, and looking at different opportunities. So this was to basically be able to forgive 2020 so that the treasurer could then write it off. So it would need to be done now, I think. Am I right, Amanda? And because the invoices are due for the rink boards, looking at still that we are still in COVID heavily is to reduce those, but we could certainly still continue the work on looking at new opportunities or combined opportunities. And we've already started that.
Okay, I can live with that.
Yeah.
Councillor White.
Just a question on this. Since these are already, the 2020 are already paid, right? So are you giving, no?
No, so if I understand correctly, the invoices would have been sent out in March, but I started in March and then COVID started in March. And so the invoices were not sent out. And so at this point, it's we're saying, look at, let's especially with reduced activity, not charge for advertising and the impact of COVID on the businesses also. And then continue on with 2021, but at a reduced rate. So we would invoice in December with a letter outlining what transpired in 2020 and what the plan is for 2021.
So just to clarify, it's forgiveness of 2020 and a reduced rate for 2021 for the companies. And in all fairness, they didn't really get a bang for their buck in 2020. Like there wasn't much exposure there at the rinks for the majority of the year. So it does make sense. So we do still need a mover and a seconder to that recommendation. Moved by Councillor Mitchell, seconded by Councillor Westgate. All in favor? That is carried. All right, we will go to the Township of Warwick user fee policy request for assistance application from the Watford Skating Club. This is for council direction. There is not a recommendation attached to this report. Councillor Morris.
Teresa, has there been any problems since we put this into place after the rec meeting?
No, no issues to point, no.
Okay.
Any group that wants to rent that space has precedence over the group that gets it for free. Is that correct?
Yes.
And are we incurring any costs having them up there?
Some with sanitary wipes and hand sanitizer, but right now it hasn't been huge. Like there's not huge numbers that are coming up.
Okay. What does council want to do to proceed?
I'd like to see it continue. They're using it. It was thought out well. Now I'm really surprised that minor hockey hasn't said that they want the same thing and come to the rec meeting, but I guess they don't maybe need it.
I know I've been, AJ plays minor hockey, so I've been there, and we are allowed to go into the cold area, which it's very cold up there this year. I don't know why, but it's really cold. But we are allowed to go up there, and there's usually a handful, maybe less than 10 people up there when I've been up there. So, and that's when they're doing like a scrimmage, like a 5-on-5 scrimmage. So there doesn't seem to be the same parental need to watch, I don't think. So are you moving that we?
There's not that many people there. When I was at I guess you'd call it a game, but I did notice we're missing a lot of heaters, and I was cold also.
Yeah. There is new heaters in the arena right now, isn't there? Yeah. I haven't talked to the person on duty to get them to turn them on. I'll have to next time go, come on, turn down the heat.
There seems to be a lot of areas that don't have heaters though, that the gas pipe is down, but no heater there. Maybe it's been like that for years and I just never noticed it. Made my bones get chilled easier.
We've had heaters that haven't been there for quite a while. And the ice is a lot better if you don't have the heaters on.
Oh, okay.
Maintain.
So the rest of us will have to wear our long johns and
most people know it's cold when they go to the arena and they're dressed warm.
Yes. All right. So Councillor Morris has made that motion. Do we have a seconder to that? Councillor Mitchell, all in favor? That is carried. Probably have enough time to finish off staff reports. We have the water and wastewater service delivery agreement. There is a recommendation attached to that. Councillor White. White.
I'll move the recommendation.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Mitchell. Any other questions or concerns? All in favor? That is carried. All right, Council, we are going to go up to our delegations for today. We have a couple of drains to deal with. We'll give Amanda a minute to welcome them in. Mike DeVos is here from Spreets.
Mayor Rumbus, it looks like he's not quite here. We may want to give him a minute. He's not in our room yet.
If you want to let us know, then Amanda will go back down to committee and other minutes. There's the minutes from the November 10th special council meeting. We need a mover and a seconder to accept those. Moved by Councillor Westgate, seconded by Councillor Mitchell. All in favor? And the minutes of the Parks and Recreation Committee meeting of November 18th. Chair White, do you have any comments for those, for council on those minutes? You're muted, Todd.
You're on mute, yeah.
We just talked about the west entrance and enhancing the pedestrian safety and maybe moving some of the parking that staff normally uses. But other than that, that was pretty much it.
Okay. So we need a mover and a seconder for those. Moved by Councillor Mitchell, seconded by Councillor Westgate. All in favor? The minutes of the special council budget meeting of November 25th. Moved by Councillor Morris, seconded by Councillor Westgate. All in favor? Those are carried. And the minutes of the special council community center and arena expansion meeting of November 25th. Moved by Councillor Mitchell, seconded by Councillor Westgate. All in
I have
favor?
a question on that one.
Oh, sorry.
The figure of $10 million makes it look like it's for the whole project. I may be misunderstood, but I thought it was a different number.
Teresa?
Yes, Councillor Morris, the entire project is 11.5. So 10 million for the new addition, 1.5 approximately for the arena renovations. And then we're looking at whatever will offset that with a capital fundraising campaign. But the total is 11.5.
It looked like it was showing a total of 10 for all of it. And I just didn't want people to think that that's the number and then all of a sudden find it's a different one. That's all.
That is the number I think that the press have been going with is 10 million.
Yes.
Amanda.
Councillor, thank you, Mayor Rumba. Councillor Morris, I think that's an excellent catch. So thank you for catching that in the minutes. And if I might suggest, perhaps our mover and seconder wouldn't mind approving the minutes as amended if we make that amendment from 10 to 11.5 and ensure that we have the correct information moving forward.
I have had a couple of interviews with the press about this project, and of course the big question is, how are you going to pay for that? My response so far, just so council knows, is that we've been saving up for several years for this project, that we are planning a very robust and exciting fundraising campaign in which we're going to be engaging our community and company partners to help us with it, that we will be taking out some long-term debt utilizing the low interest rates currently that we are experiencing, and we are still going to be going after some provincial and federal funding. So that's kind of where I've been going with how we're going to pay for this. So any other questions or comments on that? Did we get a mover and a seconder for that? Yes. Okay. All in favor. That is carried. So is Mike with us now, Amanda?
Not yet, Mayor Rumbas. I do know Andrew is just trying to make a quick call to Mike to make sure he has the access credentials, which is why you see him off video. Thanks,
Okay,
Andrew,
no problem
with that.
So we can move on to new business, which is the petition for drainage. Yes. Okay. Do we have a mover and a seconder for that? That Warwick Council approves the recommendation for the drainage superintendent to proceed with improvements for the Perry Drain Culvert 2021 under Section 78 of the Drainage Act. Moved by Councillor Mitchell, seconded by Councillor Westgate. All in favor. That is carried. And award the tender for the Perry drain. There's a recommendation there for a cost of $93,000, total $105,000 and change. Moved by Councillor Morris, seconded by Councillor Mitchell. All in favor? That is carried. And then to award the tender for the Raval O'Neill drain. Moved by Councillor Mitchell, seconded by Councillor Westgate. All in favor? And we have D, which is the appointment to St. Clair Region Conservation Authority. I would recommend that we appoint Councillor Westgate, since he's been doing a great job for us on that board. Councillor Morris, you're going to move that?
I move that. I think Jerry's done an excellent job. I hope he'll continue to do an excellent job.
I have already consulted with him and he has said that he would. And that's seconded by Councillor White. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you, Councillor Westgate, for taking on that position. All right, Council, we have gone through our entire open agenda except for our delegations. And it looks like just in time, we have Mike DeVos on the line.
Okay, so I'm going to turn this phone off, okay? Hit button.
Hi, Mike. We can hear you. Welcome.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Just give me a quick second here. I'm trying to get myself a bit organized.
Sure.
I apologize. Okay, which, do you want to do the hall drain first or?
Yes, we're going to start with the hall drain.
Okay. Yeah, this report was prepared in accordance with sections 4 and 78.
Oh, Mike, can you just let me get started with the other first? We're going to proceed into the consideration of the drainage report for the hall drain 2020. Any petitioner has the right to withdraw from the petition. Does anyone wish to withdraw? We did not receive any notice, Amanda.
No.
Okay. Any other owners in the area requiring drainage have the right to sign the petition. Does anyone wish to sign the petition? Seeing nobody's on the call, I'm assuming that we don't. And now, Mike, I'm going to turn it over to you. Please explain your...
Wait, procedural note, Mayor Rumbaugh. Oh, wait, nope, continue. My fault. You're great. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Mike.
Okay. Like I said, this report was prepared in accordance with sections 4 and 78. We're looking at improving the existing hall drain from the open channel upstream, and that'd be across the first farm and also across Arkona Road. And then upstream of that, we'd be looking to incorporate an existing award drain system that's older, but the landowners have just asked us to incorporate it as a municipal drain. We would be installing a new catch basin that one of the line fences on it, but just converting the status of that drain. The proposed new work includes having a new road crossing across Arkona Road, which stemmed from a gas main that was installed and is in a difficult location for the existing drain to utilize. Although the existing drain downstream was indicated to be a bit undersized, so we're looking at improving the size of it by twinning an existing 16-inch pipe with a new 14-inch pipe. So there'll be a twin system downstream of the road. There'll be catch basins on both sides of the road. And luckily the old, the drain that we're twinning on the downstream side was low enough to get underneath the gas main with a single pipe. So we're able to cross the road with a single 24-inch diameter pipe and then split off into the two pipes on the downstream side. So that worked out well, I guess, for the gas company in this case. But that's basically the proposal. I think I'll stop and open up to questions.
Okay, any questions for Mike? Seeing none. Andrew Mavers, Drainage Superintendent, do you have any comments to add to that?
I do not.
All right. Does anyone who is present wish to ask any questions or make any comments? If the report is approved, the bylaw will be given first and second reading later in the meeting. Thank you for attending, and we will move on to the Court of Revisions meetings for the Arts Drain, the Birchall. Can we do these together, Amanda? Or how does that work? Sorry.
So thanks, Mayor Rembert. So you can move into both, but each specific drain will require a move into Court of Revision and move out of resolution.
Okay, so we need a motion that Warwick Township Council proceed into the Court of Revisions for the Arts Drain number 2, 2020 bylaw number 69 of 2020. Moved by Councillor White, seconded by Councillor Morris. All in favor? That is carried. Have any written appeals been received? Okay.
No.
Does anyone present have any verbal appeals? Since there are no appeals filed, the following resolution is to be passed. The motion that the Court of Revisions for the Arts Drain number 2, 2020 bylaw number 69 of 2020 be closed without changes for the report and that we go back into open council. That is moved by Councillor Mitchell, seconded by Councillor Westgate. All in favor? That is carried. And we will go on to, we need a motion that Warwick Township Council proceed into the Court of Revisions for the Birchall Drain Culvert Reassessment 2020 bylaw number 70 of 2020. Moved by Councillor Mitchell, seconded by Councillor Morris. All in favor? Thank you. Have any written appeals been received?
No, they have not.
All right. Does anyone present have any verbal appeals? Since there are no appeals filed, the following resolution is to be passed. The motion is that the Court of Revisions for the Birchall Drain Culvert Reassessment 2020 bylaw number 70 of 2020 be closed without changes to the report and we go back into open session. Moved by Councillor Morris, seconded by Councillor Westgate. All in favor? That is carried. And we need a motion that Warwick Township Council proceed into the Court of Revision for the Howden Parker Drain Branch 6 Reassessment 2020 bylaw number 71 of 2020. Moved by Councillor Westgate, seconded by Councillor White. All in favor? That is carried. Have any written appeals being received?
No.
All right. Does anyone present have any verbal appeals? Since there are no appeals filed, the following resolution is to be passed. That the Court of Revision for the Howden Parker Drain Branch 6 Reassessment 2020 bylaw number 71 of 2020 be closed without changes to the report and that we go back into open session. Moved by Councillor Morris, seconded by Councillor Mitchell. All in favor? That is carried. And one more, council. That the Warwick Township Council proceed into the Court of Revisions for the Rotor Drain Reassessment 2020 bylaw number 72 of 2020. Moved by Councillor White, seconded by Councillor Mitchell. All in favor? That is carried. Have any written appeals been received?
No, sorry, no.
Does anyone present have any verbal appeals? Since there are no appeals filed, the following resolution is to be passed, that the Court of Revision for the Road or Drain Reassessment 2020 bylaw number 72 of 2020 be closed without changes to the report, and that we go back into open session. Moved by Councillor Mitchell, seconded by Councillor Morris. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you, Council. Thank you very much, Mike.
Okay, thank you, and good evening.
I feel like an auctioneer sometimes when we're doing those drainage reports. All right. So, Council, we have a few minutes until our next delegation, which is Tony Camiso. Is that proper pronunciation of his name? Is Tony in the waiting room, Amanda?
I believe so. Is it Tony Camisio? Maybe that's not right. That's how I say. He
We'll
can
ask
correct
him when
us.
he gets here.
He is in the waiting room. I can let him in if you'd like.
Sure.
Or should I wait? Yeah. There you go.
Now, Tony is here. I don't see him.
Yes. Hi, Tony, can you hear us?
Hello.
There he is.
Hello.
There we go. Hi, Tony. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for asking.
Good. Your last name, how do you pronounce it?
Camiso.
Camiso. Okay. I was close. Anyway, so Tony is here from Frank Cowan's to give us a bit of a risk and liability considerations for municipalities on ATV and ORV use on municipal roads. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Tony. Welcome to our council meeting.
Thank you, Your Worship. That's wonderful. Love the fire in the back. Makes me feel warmer. I believe it was last week or maybe 2 weeks ago, I was approached by staff and provided some material on the subject matter. And yeah, definitely an issue for small and rural townships right now. And just to keep things simple, there is no direct impact in terms of your premium dollars that you guys pay for having these vehicles on your roads. And what I mean by that is we don't rate or charge if the municipality decides to allow ATVs and other off-road vehicles on your roadways. How the insurance companies determine rate for road liability is they basically determine how many kilometers of paved roads you have and how many kilometers of unpaved roads. So unless you're going to be constructing more roads for these vehicles, that's the only way it's going to affect you cost-wise on your insurance directly. Okay. I like to get that out of the way because I know that's the number one question I get from staff and council when it comes to this issue. The second thing I really wanted to bring up was the only other way I could possibly think or even see insurance premiums being affected by it is if all of a sudden there's like this uptick in claims activity. And if all of a sudden there's more motor vehicle accident lawsuits coming in affecting the township, there could be, in the insurance industry, we call it a surcharge, but you could see your premiums increase because of the increase in claims activity. And I think everyone would understand that because the more claims you have, the more you're going to pay for insurance. So that's the only other way, Your Worship, I could think that premium dollars would affect. In terms of liability and the advice that we provide, it really boils down to two things, and that's budget and resources. Do you have the capability, the resources and the time to properly budget and prepare your roads for the increased traffic? And what I mean by that is if you can picture a rural road with maybe a smaller shoulder than say a paved highway, is there room for an ATV to travel on that roadway with the traffic? And if there isn't, what about the signage? What about all the other hazards that could be present for this additional traffic. And we can even talk about winter road maintenance and how you're going to maintain those roads in the winter, especially the ones that have that extended shoulder. Are you going to plow that extra shoulder? Well, how much more time does that take for your crew to plow those roads? Is that going to affect your minimum maintenance standards? Are they going to have the time to plow that extra section of road? Do you have the equipment on your plows to even handle the extra plowing and that sort of thing? So that's kind of where the conversation usually goes for council, is because everybody wants everyone to be happy with ATVs and that sort of stuff on the road. And maybe it even increases tourism into the municipality, because believe it or not, there are some municipalities that promote ATV use on their roads. And I think I can say this, but up in the Bruce County, there's a few municipalities that they have like guides and trips, and you can go and they have specific maps that tell you how to get around the town on your ATV. So again, it all depends on what council wants to do, and again, resources and budget. So that's kind of like the overview, but I figured there'd be some questions directly from council. So
we'd love to hear some questions from council. Councillor Morris.
I guess the only comment I have is you mentioned size and capacity of the road. The ATV takes up very little room compared to some of the farm equipment that are on our side roads. So I would consider that they are not a liability as far as the size or maintenance of our roads that way.
Any other questions for Tony? Councillor White.
Approving this, Tony, are we opening ourselves up to more potential lawsuits, or does it matter? Whether we approve it or not, we'll probably be named anyway.
Yeah, through you, Chair, I think you're liable anyways, because it's your property and you're in charge of maintaining it regardless.
Even if a vehicle is not supposed to be on there, or is it permitted?
So are you talking about no longer maintained roadways in the winter? Like
No,
roads?
that I get in an accident with my ATV, so I sue the township because it's the township's property.
Mm-hmm.
Do I have a legal leg to stand on if the township hasn't approved my use of that property?
That's a good question, because if it's the bylaw passed that they shouldn't be on the road, is there still exposure to the municipality? That's up to a judge, really, isn't it? You know, what kind of damage? Yeah.
I have heard different cases where a farmer has no trespassing signs on his property, and ATVs have gone onto their property without permission, gotten in an accident, and they sue the farmer, and the farmer's insurance pays.
Yeah.
It's not always fair, but it does happen.
So maybe it's a non-issue.
Yeah, like I said, I think it boils down to, can you prove that you're doing your due diligence to maintain those roads to some capacity? And if you're not, and you could be liable, the insurance policy is still going to protect the township. But yeah, there's still exposure. There's always going to be exposure.
Okay, thank you.
Andrew?
Is there a list of specifications? Is there a recommended shoulder width that it should be, whether it's a paved road, gravel portion? Is there anything that, we could say, like, in my opinion, I don't think they're wide enough, but until I saw if there's a list of specifications, I guess I can't really comment.
Another great question, and I'd have to talk to our road expert to see if there's specific minimum maintenance standards that apply for that. And I assume there is, but I don't know. I don't know the technical road areas that it would be required.
Any other questions for Tony tonight? Councillor Westgate.
Do you have many claims for the four-wheelers?
Great question, Counselor. So typically the claims we see are actually on trails. There are a few counties in Southern Ontario that permit ATV use on their trail systems. And yes, we do have some cases. Yes, we do have claims, yeah, involving ATVs. Typically younger people without helmets, believe it or not.
And snowmobiles are liability for them. We're going to get into that soon.
Yeah, different issue in the sense, Counselor, because the snowmobiles typically enter into agreements with the club in terms of the trail system and all the various landowners. And we actually have some material on that as well through our website that I can share with staff on and how to deal with that, especially if it's coming through municipal property. And because I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, to operate a snowmobile on the trail, you need to have insurance. There are and proof of ownership, I think, while you're on the sled. But I could be wrong. I'm not a snowmobiler.
I
But I'm
believe you have
thinking
to have
more
a
of them on the
membership.
road.
Oh,
What's
You have to
that?
buy, you have to buy a provincial permit, which covers all the clubs.
Yeah.
But
And that
they're
permit is
not on
tied to
road.
having
They're
insurance.
not allowed on our highway, but
No.
they're still there. They were there last week.
They still went across our front yard.
But I mean, they were still on the side roads last weekend, or
Mhm.
last week, Tuesday.
Okay, any other questions, council? Amanda?
Sorry, not council, but just
That's okay.
a question for Tony. You did circulate to us, Tony, documentation from Frank Cowan previously, and thank you for that documentation. It did outline some recommended steps for municipalities who choose to allow ATVs and ORVs on their roadways, kind of a survey and checklist, and it involved, completing a whole scan of all the roadways, the road widths, signage, that kind of stuff. Would you be able to speak to, or are you able to speak to those recommendations, just to give council an overview again for us? I didn't include that material on our agenda today.
okay. Yeah, thanks, Amanda. I have it here in front of me. So there's only a few bullet points here, so I'll be brief. I talked about it already, but the road shoulder and determining whether there's any fixed objects or fixed hazards within those shoulders. So basically that means signage. And then we have, whether it's an unpaved or paved road, I did touch on that as well. And mainly on the unpaved sections, if there's potholes, sometimes over the winter, the unpaved shoulders will develop potholes due to the thawing. So that's something that needs to be monitored and checked through patrol. For the highways without sidewalks, if there are any of those within the municipality, then you'd have to worry about pedestrians and possibly cyclists. One of the big crazes right now are these bicycles that are called fat bikes, I think, or they're bicycles with really big fat tires. And I've seen people here in front of my street riding them in the winter, even after that last snowstorm. So again, something to consider when you're making your decision. The last few here includes, what about the narrow roadways? And I believe one counselor touched on it too with the farm equipment and whatnot. Depending on the road, the narrow roadways have different sight lines and even hill obstructions and that sort of thing. And sometimes you have to worry about sufficient spacing between vehicles on those roadways, and that has to be taken into consideration. This one would apply too, because you guys do have a downtown core there in Watford. If you allow those vehicles in and through that area, how does that affect traffic volume? And is there a potential for more accidents at a particular intersection if there's more vehicles, specifically during the time of day, and either at nighttime, or if it's in the winter, then you also have snowmobile traffic. So again, other considerations that council should take into effect. And that kind of touched on the last point within our material on that spreadsheet was the time of day and the time of year. And the last thing that I noted here was snowbanks. So if there's a particular section of road that's going to be allowed to have ATVs, and there's snowbanks tend to accumulate, you're gonna have to determine, do you have to cut those snowbanks back or not? Depending on if an ATV that maybe not have the same clearance as a typical vehicle, are they able to see over those snowbanks as they approach an intersection? And if they can't, then you need to move those snowbanks back or cut them back. So again, that gets back to budget and resources, because that takes extra time as well from your crew, your winter road maintenance crew. And yeah, so that's the last point on that documentation there, Amanda.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Tony? Seeing none, I'm going to thank you, because I didn't realize there were places in the Bruce County that had that. That sounds like a fun afternoon with my son and I. So we might have to check that out. Thank you very much, Tony, for taking the time to meet with us. And I'm sure council has a lot to consider with deciding this.
Okay, you're welcome. And Merry Christmas, everyone.
Yes, you too.
Okay,
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Amanda, where do we go from here? Like, do we have to decide this tonight? Or can we wait and have a report come back to council from staff? Or where do we want to go from here?
Thanks, Mayor Rumbat. So as always, it is completely up to council's direction, the next steps. We do know that in our case in Warwick, because we are included, well, in our case in Warwick, as of January 1st, with council taking no action, we do automatically allow ATV and ORV use on our municipal roadways. That being said, we can certainly bring back a report to our next council meeting in January. We can take any direction from council tonight in terms of what they'd like to see, if there's any additional information they think they need, or if a bylaw of any kind needs to be prepared. We're happy to take direction.
Okay, Councilor White.
Just a question to staff. What the concerns Tony raised, are those, like, are you concerned about that, or is that something that provides extra work, a lot of extra workload to you? Like, I guess I'm looking at Andrew. So
I think certainly the road specifications concern me, like when he mentions shoulder width, if that is truly something, you know, we of course we have narrow shoulders. If that's something that, you know, opens us up for liability, then that would be concerning. But other than that, I can't see snowbanks or anything like that being really an issue. We're plowing all the roads regardless. I think you sit up higher on a four-wheeler than a passenger vehicle, like a regular car. So I don't think that's a huge concern. But no, it's more the shoulder width that I would be concerned about. I mean, in a lot of places, we can't make them any wider. We're limited by ditching, so.
Councilor Westgate.
Four-wheelers don't ride on the shoulder. It's too dangerous. It pulls you into the ditch. It's loose. You can't go very fast. They like to fly down the road. So I don't think our shoulders are a problem at all. Most four-wheelers drive on the road.
I don't think it's any different than a bicycle, really.
they're just faster.
They're
And,
faster.
yeah.
I think they're safer than a bicycle. First of all, they're going quite a bit faster. A car doesn't come up on it near as fast. I mean, most four-wheelers go down the road 60 to 80 kilometers an hour.
Mhm.
I
Just
live on the side road and I have four-wheelers going by all the time. I agree with Jerry. They're going down the center of the road like everybody else does with cars, unless they're meeting another vehicle. I see no problem at all of not having a bylaw.
I'm in agreement.
So council does have the option of just leaving this and saying, okay, well, we're okay with it going forward.
Yep.
Yes,
I'm
That's an
fine with
option.
that.
I'm fine with that too.
Fine with that. Okay. Then we just have our in-camera session. We need a motion to move in camera. Moved by Councillor Mitchell, seconded by Councillor White. All in favor? That is carried. And I don't know, do we need Teresa and Andrew, or can we let them get on with their evenings?
Yes, we do need Teresa to stay for the beginning and Andrew, if he's available, to stay for the presentation. That'd be
Okay, for
great.
those of you who are watching on YouTube, we will be returning into open session. However, we won't be returning to YouTube, so we wish you all a very good evening and a very lovely holiday. Have a good night.